All right, man, peace. So James Damore was a former employee of Google, the multi-billion-dollar search engine, and he is suing Google because he claims that he was discriminated against because he is a conservative Caucasian male. Of course, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
In a new lawsuit, two former Google engineers claim the company is a hostile workplace for employees with conservative views. A suit filed yesterday in California also alleges the company discriminates against men and white employees by unfairly favoring women and some minorities in hiring and promotions.
Now let's evaluate this graph for a moment. It says that there's a lawsuit against Google. It alleges discrimination against employees who express conservative views. Now, conservative views are often coded language when pertaining to Caucasian males for white nationalism. I oftentimes have many so-called pro-blacks, internet revolutionaries, and liberal blacks who come on my channel and they hear me talk about liberalism and they get frustrated and upset because in the binary mind of the average modern day liberal black, you're either liberal or conservative, not understanding that the term liberal is not just pertaining to one's political affiliations or alleged political affiliations, but also to ideological affiliations. When I speak on liberalism, it is because it is just a coded way of saying that someone is a Marxist. I state this ad infinitum. Some people it just does not permeate their skull for whatever reason. In regards to conservatism, as I've already stated, conservative is oftentimes just coded language for a white nationalist, and that's their business. I don't get involved in the circular racial conversation. I really don't care because I don't waste my time concerning myself with what the Caucasian person thinks on any topic. And that's the major problem with the so-called black man here in this society. Many so-called black men spend way too much time being concerned about what the Caucasian thinks about them, as opposed to what they think about themselves. But anyway, let's get back to this graph. It says that Google is discriminating against men who express conservative views, i.e. white nationalism. That's his business. He says are males. Many Caucasian males feel like they're under attack here in America. Why is that? Because they're being inundated with television shows, newscasts that are stating that men should be apologetic for being men. And we know that the target is on the Caucasian male right now because they're viewed as being the top, the pinnacle. I did a video a while ago pertaining to the alleged gender wage gap. And it showed you in that video how when the CBS Morning News attempted to display what they called the gender wage gap, it showed you what the real intent behind it was, which was to help the various demographics of females in this society attain to the level of the Caucasian man. Because when they showed the pie chart, the graph, they compared the percentage of white women, black women, and Hispanic women and what they made in regards to income compared to what the average white male made to do the same job. They did not compare them to the average male, and they did not show how much a black female was making compared to what a black male was making to do the same job. They didn't show what a Hispanic female was making in regards to income compared to what a Hispanic male was making to do the same job. It was all three demographics of females compared to the white male, because the Caucasian male is viewed as the pinnacle. So this is really not a gender issue. It is a male hegemony issue, and the Caucasian male is in rulership. As I state over and over again incessantly on this channel, the so-called black man is at the bottom of the totem pole in regards to the liberal hierarchy, and he is non-existent on the conservative hierarchy. And of course, the last criteria says are Caucasian. Why is that? Because he's a so-called white nationalist.
One of the engineers, James Damore, was fired in August after posting controversial opinions to an internal Google message board. CBS News legal analyst Ricky Kleeman is here. Ricky, good morning.
Good morning.
A lot of people say this is rich. I saw a lot of eye rolls this morning when we were just talking about it upstairs, because white men dominate most industries, including, I look around the room, a lot of white men in this room. So it seems very hard to understand how you could have a case.
Now, I hope that you brothers just heard what Miss Gayle King stated and the way in which she stated it. Because to me, that falls in line with the delusional mentality that many of these liberal black females have, who are determined to try to graft themselves into the corporate world, but who think that they're going to do so while trying to push or promote a confrontational style of dialogue. Brothers, this is why I tell you that the so-called liberal black female has three alter egos. And that is that she's a globalist, meaning she wants everyone to come together. They're normally pro-homosexual, pro-race mixing, even though they talk about black love. The average black female, liberal black female that talks about black love, if a Caucasian man hit on her and he had his stuff together, she would run off with him and not even take a second thought. Believe me, a lot of that is a front. She has the racialist angle where she tries to front as if she's concerned about racial issues. And then her main alter is the feminist angle. Right now, what Ms. Gayle King is trying to apply is the racialist angle, where she's trying to attack so-called white men. I would like to ask Ms. Gayle King, how many heterosexual black males are working for Miss Oprah Winfrey, your so-called best friend? You almost never see Oprah Winfrey associated with heterosexual black males. But she loves to hang around homosexual black males, like Lee Daniels. She loves that. So this is part of the hypocrisy of the liberal black female. And that's why I tell you, brothers, not to trust them. A lot of so-called pro-black men fell into the woke rabbit hole over the last few months. And when Jemele Hill came out with her vain and self-serving rhetoric, a lot of liberal black dudes fell for it. Oh, she's a strong black sister and this. And then, of course, right down the hatch following her so-called assault, verbal assault on Donald Trump, it was black men are the white people of black people. Because that was her sole focus the whole time, brothers. You cannot trust the liberal black female. And for Gayle King to sit there and say she does not understand how a Caucasian man could be discriminated against because there's Caucasian men there and over here, and they're dominating every field. That is more indicative of the Caucasian male having a ruling class mentality. When you get on top and you fight your way to get to the top, you're supposed to do what you can to preserve your power. It's up to the so-called black man to attain a ruling class mentality so that he can build his own. Not to constantly be begging and trying to force his way into a convention that was not built for him. That's the frustration of the modern day liberal black female, particularly like Gayle King, who's trying to find her way and self-define herself in a convention that's not made for her. The modern day liberal black female does not trust the black man, no matter how much they talk about black love and black empowerment. They do not trust the black man. And a lot of the reasoning for that is reasonable, because the so-called black man has failed to show that he understands the hierarchy, and that is the Most High first, then him, then the woman. The so-called black woman is waiting for you to understand that she's not a god. She's not your God. She's not above you. But as long as you go along with that bullshit delusion, then she's going to continue to not respect you subconsciously. Consciously, she's going to talk about black love and all this bullshit and all these falsehoods. But in the inner recesses of her mind, she's going to look at you like a little boy. That's why oftentimes you'll find that when you try to have a discussion with the so-called black female, she would try to take on an air as if she's speaking to someone who is less than or like her little brother. And you quickly have to assert to her that no, not only are you not above me, you're not even my equal. But it depends on who you are as a person. It depends on your mental faculties, your mental acuity, and what you know, your knowledge. But the so-called black female, liberal black female, is someone that you have to put in their place, quite frankly. And I just wanted to note that, because the way in which Gayle King decided that she was going to broach the sentiment that she broached with this lawyer here, It was just extremely, I found to be, I won't say unprofessional, but she lacked scope in understanding what she was saying. Yes, you can be the victim of discrimination, even if you're a so-called Caucasian man. All discrimination means is that you're being hindered from fulfilling your potential because of something other than professional criteria. That's all that means. And when you decide that you're going to try to hold everyone accountable for what you perceive to be an oppressive environment, then that makes you teeter-tottering on the borders of being unprofessional.
Well, especially when discrimination against a white man. Especially at first blush when you look at Google. Google has males are 69% of its population. Women are 31% of its population. And when you look at race, whites are 59% of its population, followed in great proportion by Asians and then other minorities. Which is why this is confusing.
Well, let's look at this pie chart. It says 2% of all the employees of Google are black, and I would guess that the vast majority of that 2% are so-called black males, because you very rarely see black females in IT. That is very rare.
Well, it's not only confusing. At first blush, you say to yourself, oh, come on, come on. We all know that when we read about Silicon Valley, we have read countless tales of women saying, I can't get jobs. If I get jobs, I can't get a promotion. I'm not taken seriously, and on it goes.
And I believe that because many females are certainly the quote unquote victims of discrimination in the IT field. In IT, you're expected to be extremely knowledgeable, and you're expected to be well versed in whatever project you're handed. If you have to troubleshoot an issue, if you have to troubleshoot an application, you're expected to know what the issue is right away. Because in many of these corporations, the flow of data has to be constant. If the network is down, if computers are down, you have to be able to resolve the issue ASAP. And the female brain is not normally associated with problem solving. It's just the fact of the matter. Normally, the female brain is associated with problem causing. Now, certain people might say, well, that's a stereotype, that's unfair. It just is what it is. I'm just speaking the truth in regards to that issue. And once again, like I stated, when I saw that pie chart and it says only 2% of employees at Google are so-called black, I would gander that the vast majority of the black employees at Google are most likely black males. Because if the females are having a hard time gaining employment in IT, I'm sure that at a mega corporation like Google, at least for right now, they're having a hard time hiring so-called black females. I'm sure about that, at least for now. But right now we're in the midst of the hashtag #MeToo atmosphere and environment, so who knows? But I make these videos geared towards the so-called black man so that he can understand the environment that is coming into play. The atmosphere that's being brought to the forefront. It's going to be a very confrontational atmosphere in the cult that I call corporate America very soon. So as a so-called black man, you're going to see a lot of demographics that are going to try to act like they're on your side, like the liberal black female, until they get a foothold. And then they're going to kick you down. Because as I've stated, on the totem pole, on the hierarchy, the so-called black man is non-existent on the conservative side, and he's at the very bottom on the liberal side.
However, when you delve into this 161-page complaint, and you read it, I did read every bit of it, and it's really there in graphic detail, including internal memoranda, lots of emails, lots of things that were on the boards, as well as tweets. What you do when you go into the company itself is you also have to look at the law, and the law is the surprise. You have a very good lawyer here. Ms. Dillon is someone who has brought cases for a class of people who feel that they are white males and that they have been discriminated against. She has also looked at this industry and looked at conservative speech. And what she looks at also are the campuses and other places where a conservative speaker is called to speak is basically shut down and shut out.
And that is a major issue right now particularly in all bastions of liberalism, especially in the college and university environments all across America, where they are shutting down many quote unquote conservative speakers. And this is what that man, Mr. James Damore, is talking about. And once again, the reason why brothers should be cognizant of this is that many of these battles are going to be fought by so-called conservative Caucasian men, because the so-called black man, nobody's going to listen to you, because they understand that the so-called black man does not have a culture right now. So they know that even though the average singular black man may speak his mind, there's not a convention of protection for the so-called black man. That's why I tell brothers, when you work on these jobs and you receive these memos or emails that are slanted towards quote unquote liberalism or denigration of the masculine principle, save those emails. If your so-called boss sends you any type of message that you can see is based in a discriminatory mindset, trying to stop you from attaining a higher level or higher position in the workplace, particularly if your metrics are up to par with what they have established it would take for you to receive a promotion, and other people are getting promotions over you, even though you have better metrics, better statistics, you have to hold on to those records. Because even if you decide to leave, if you decide to bring up a lawsuit, you're going to need verification. So a lot of these major battles in regards to the counterattack against the feminazi movement are going to be waged by conservative Caucasian males. Because let's understand something. The vast majority of so-called black males, let's be for real, are liberal. Why is that? Because the so-called black man is dominated by the feminine energy. Because most of these cats are being raised by liberal black women. So we can't just look at stories like this and say, oh, well, that's just a white boy, to hell with him. No, we have to understand how this story can apply to the so-called black man. Particularly a lot of you brothers that are caught up in the cult known as corporate America. So cats just got to stay on their P's and Q's.
And she says that's what's happening here.
So how can a white man file discrimination? I'm still confused by that.
Well,
because you're just confused in general. She already explained it to you. She explained in the memo that the corporation has a series of bylaws that they themselves are infracting against because they're not evaluating Mr. James Damore according to the metrics that they have established for employee proficiency. What else is there to understand, Ms. King?
well, let's look at his history. We're looking at him as the person who wants to represent the plaintiff class. He is someone who has had excellent reviews, superb reviews. He has gotten salary increases, bonuses, stock options, all the way up he goes, and he goes as if he has a stellar career. Then he winds up at diversity meetings.
And you see what he did there? He got a female lawyer. Very shrewd.
When they have these weekly and monthly meetings, and he hears that not only are hiring preference.
This dude looked like that actor. What's that guy's name? Is it Adrian Brody? Dude, the motherfucker look like a damn eagle.
Preferences going to go to women and minorities, but so are promotional preferences. And what he says is, wait a minute. I am just as equally qualified, so why should I be shut out? Remember, too, conservative point of view is a separate element here.
Absolutely. That's the most relevant element. Because I believe that he thinks that if he were one of these pansy simp dudes, liberal males, that he would have a better chance of attaining a higher standing at Google, getting promoted at Google. If he was ready to bend over and pretty much get kicked in the ass by the feminazi movement that I'm sure is overtaking Google. Please understand, a lot of these IT organizations are based out in California, which is a hub of liberalism, particularly based out in the Valley area. So what they call Silicon Valley. So I'm sure that there are some validity, or there is some validity to his claims. And once again, so-called black man, please pay attention, because the tenor of the workplace environment is going to change in corporate America, particularly because of what is going on in Hollywood right now that is being executed for social engineering. So they're going to try to compensate by giving females advantages over men. particularly the so-called black men, which has been going on for the longest time anyway, but it's going to become much more flagrant. This is why I address Gayle King, because it's such a damn ruse and a form of misdirection when the liberal black woman gets on TV and tries to act like she's attacking Caucasian men. I guarantee you, if it was a so-called black man who was getting promotions over a so-called black woman, she would not have anything to say. Even if the so-called black man was getting promoted because he was doing a better job, she would still be trying to figure out how come women were not treated equally, quote unquote. That's what this is all about. It's really about entitlement. And the so-called liberal black woman and the liberal Caucasian will oftentimes try to use the so-called black man as fodder to try to pull you in and use you as infantry, as a foot soldier. When they're done with you, they're going to kick you to the side.
That's the nuts and bolts of this case. We are shut down and shut up, so he says.
So interesting. We should just note a Google spokesperson issued a statement saying, quote, "We look forward to defending against Mr. DeMoore's lawsuit in court." Ricky Kleeman, thank you so much.
I predict that this man, Mr. DeMoore, is going to win his case, but we'll see. I'm certainly going to be following it. But anyway, peace.